As sports history fans, we often reminisce about the legends. Willis Reed limping on to the NBA Finals court, Curt Schilling's bloody sock, Kerry Strug's courageous dismount, and so many more. These moments often define sports history. But what about the countless injuries that did not become legends, or careers that were derailed due to inadequate care? That's where this episode's sponsor comes in. Introducing to you, ILP Sports Consultants, your trusted sports injury partner, available 24/7. Brian Maelli at ILP Sports Consultants has over 20 years of experience in the orthopedic and sports medicine industry, and he has worked with athletes across the gamut, from youth to amateurs, professionals, in almost every sport played in the United States of America, accommodating athletes at every stage of their career. This adaptability ensures that ILP services are perfectly tailored to your skill level, no matter where you are in your athletic journey. With ILP, you are in control. Choose the steps that matter most to you. Diagnosis, treatment plan, recovery, or the whole journey. ILP services are tailored to your unique needs. Rushing for care is a common pitfall, leading to future problems. ILP Sports Consultants helps you make the right decisions, ensuring that you receive timely and safe care. And here's the bonus. Brian hosts the Injured List podcast, sharing insights and athlete stories you won't want to miss. Whether you're a concerned parent or grandparent, or an athlete yourself seeking guidance, ILP Sports Consultants is your beacon of hope in sports injury management. Visit ILPsports.com today. That's the letters ILPsports.com. ILP Sports Consultants, where your well-being is the priority and your recovery is the mission. Choose ILP Sports Consultants for a healthier sports journey, helping you get back in the game the smart way.
Blog Talk Radio.
Tonight we'll go back in time to seasons past, when 22 men graced the rugged fields of yesterday, fighting for one more first down, one more yard gain, one final score which would bring victory after 60 minutes of battle on the gridiron. Tonight we'll explore the world of Gridiron Greats. Welcome to Gridiron Greats Football Memorabilia on the Gridiron Greats Publisher and Broadcasting Network, in conjunction with Swick Enterprises. We're live from the Wallingford, Connecticut home of Gridiron Greats Magazine, and I'm Bob Swick, publisher and editor of Gridiron Greats Magazine, and I'll be your host for the show. Gridiron Greats is the only publication in America which focuses upon the history and memorabilia of the North American football game since its inception in 1869. We cover 150-plus years of football history and memorabilia. And you can find us on the web at GridironGreatsMagazine.com. It's at this time I'd like to introduce my co-host. He's a senior contributing writer to Gridiron Greats Magazine, a football memorabilia historian, specializing in pre-World War II items, in particular Red Grange, and also Seattle Seahawk items, in particular Steve Larger. He hails from Portland, Oregon. Mr. Joe Squires. Joe, welcome to the show this evening.
Bob, so happy to be here. Thank you very much for the intro. How many years has it been? And I still chuckle hearing you give me an intro. I love it.
We're back on a hot and humid day here in Connecticut. Joe, I'd like to lead off by asking you about an incredible pickup you made recently over the past few weeks. Can you share it with our audience?
Absolutely. What was it, about 3-4 months ago, we had our first triple guest show. We had, Jeff Payne, Steve, Mike. We had 3 guests on, all talking about a article that came out in Gridiron Greats on the 1926 Pottsville Maroons real postcard that Jeff Payne authored. And, just a great show, just a very esoteric, rare, incredibly rare. We think there's only 4 sets that have ever come to surface, including one that just sold in Hunt last year that was a full set, including the only one-of-a-kind, Charlie Berry card that ended up in Jeff Payne's collection. Well, between all of us on Vintage Football, Sports Card Chat, VFC, we've put together a spreadsheet showing, where most of these cards came from, and there's some holes missing. Obviously, only one Charlie Berry like to mention. So we think he was probably the most popular, on the team, and people kept his card or took him to school. Who knows what people do? We all remember we did with our football cards when we were kids. But 5 more of these cards surfaced from the Zacco Kids collection, as we beautifully call it, because we're pretty sure the Zacco's Kids ones, they hand wrote the name of the person on the front, sometimes the college they went to, sometimes their position, and they all have little damages to them. And we're pretty sure that these were held up by thumbtacks around Zacco's Kids' bedroom at some point. So 5 cards surfaced: Ernst, Stein, Flanagan, Wentz, and Wessinger. All of them pinholes, a couple of them missing pieces where it looks like somebody had the thumbtack still in there and pulled it down and left a little piece of paper up on the wall. But I was able to add 2 that I was missing, the Ernst and Stein from the Zacco Kids collection. But pretty cool to see our draft with all the missing, cards get filled in with 5 more. And, so just pretty cool, and I don't know. I just, it's such a cool set, and just 18 cards, and I was able to, to add 2 more. I'm up to 15 out of the 18. The hardest 3 to get, the Tony Latone, the Charlie Berry, and the Racis, RACIS. So, it's a tough set.
To fill in our audience one more time, because we know we had Mike McKee, Steve Wolf, and Jeff Payne on talking about this stuff before. How many cards is it estimated to actually be in existence of this set? Can we just give an educated guess? Less than 12, or what are we looking at here?
Less than 80 in existence in totality. 18 cards to the set. Right now we know of about 4 sets, which is 72 cards. And out of those 72 cards, we've accounted for the existence in personal collections of probably 60 to 62 of those.
Okay.
So, I mean, we know where, friends, family, etc. I mean, Jeff has a full set of all 18. Steve Wolf is, right there. I think he has 13 or 14. I'm up to 15. So I mean, if that's together, there's 47 of the 72 right there. Other collectors we know who have some, samples and stuff like that. Just an incredibly rare set. I mean, 72 of these maximum to exist, but like 3 of those are Charlie Berry, 2 of those are Latone. There's only 1 Charlie Berry out of 4 sets that are even known to exist. The first one ever to be seen was in that Hunt auction that ended up in Jeff Payne's set that we talked about on the show. But just incredible. You talk about rare. I mean, the 26 Pottsville Maroons are, champions of the NFL. They have the stolen championship. This is a professional team. It's from 1926. This is probably one of the first complete sets. I mean, you've got, the Spalding All-American. That set is football, baseball. It's everything. You've got, I don't know. If you think about it, this is probably one of the first football sets known to exist, and it's akin to the Mount Everest of collecting football.
Right.
I love it.
And again, I got a feeling, and this is my feeling on it. Maybe somehow, somewhere, maybe there's a couple sets in private collectors' hands that have not been able to, or don't want to be, known about, so on and so forth. And that's always possible, so on and so forth. And again, we don't know that, and that's the beauty of the hobby, especially when you're having something as this obscure come to light, and to see, four very, very serious collectors of the set actually finding it and eventually completing it. Which I'm confident you guys are going to complete it down the road. I can't see that you wouldn't find those somehow, somewhere, and you'll never know. It could be in the most obscure place you find it. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden it comes to light, and you pick it up, and that's it. Simple.
Yep. I hope so. I hope so. But when there's only one known card to exist of one of them, the Charlie Berry, it's
right.
It's not hard to imagine that Charlie Berry being the star of the team. I remember taking, I hate to say it, but I remember taking my O.J. Simpson card, to school in my lunch pail, and your milk jug, your milk thermos leaks, and the card ends up destroyed. I mean, this is 1926. I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum. You think about paper drives and parents throwing stuff out, and rodents, insects, fires, floods, everything that can get between a thin piece of paper, postcard, and now coming up on 100 years later, 95, right now, it's pretty fascinating. I mean, it takes one person to take it to school, to leave it on their desk, for it to get blown off their bike, whatever, and and it's gone. So one of them known. And so who knows? Maybe one of these days I'll finish it. Maybe one will come up in auction. It'll be hard fought after. Steve Wolf and I'll have to Rochambeau to see who gets to bid on it. So
amazing. It's amazing card, amazing set, and it's an amazing history of the set at the same time. But again, I still believe there's stuff out there. There's still stuff that that can be discovered for rarities and for obscure issues, so on and so forth. And here's just one example that with a lot of legwork, you, Steve, Mike McKee, and Jeff Payne really have analyzed and come up with an amazing analysis and history of this set. And in pursuing it, again, preserving early football history, which is what it's all about, in my opinion, to say the least. So congratulations on your pickup. It's an amazing pickup, to say the least. Now to deviate off track in the few minutes we have before our guest arrives. Apparently the Nationals are go, from what we're hearing, and I guess they're going to be going pretty much at full capacity. I haven't got any particulars right now. I'm still waiting to hear back from a few people on it. But I do not know, and again, I'm going on a limb, I do not know if I will be attending this year, for the simple reason we're supposed to be moving that week. So it's going to be precarious one way or the other what's going to happen, and if I'll be attending or not. So again,
you'll be driving right by. You'll be driving right by Chicago, Bob.
No, not Not really. I'll be driving 18 hours out of my way if I do that. So we're gonna play it by ear, and I'll make an announcement later on in July of what's happening.
Last year was missed because of COVID. I missed 2019 because a friend of mine got married on the exact Saturday of the National. Yep. My last National was 2018. So I am making the trip to Chicago with my son Xander for a dude's weekend, and we're going to have some fun. A national is a national without me. A national is not a national without the captain. Heading council table for football at Giordani's Pizza or whatever it's called. It's not a national without the captain.
I think what's going to happen now, since I'm going to be in Southport, I will probably be attending the Chantilly show much more often, because it's basically a hour 15-minute flight from where I am into Dulles there, and the Chantilly show is very close to the airport. And I think I only have like a six-hour drive if I wanted to drive up to set up there. So there's a couple options. And then next year it's back in Atlantic City, which from here is a very, very easy ride for me. If I'm down in I'll be down in Southport. It will not be that easy of a ride. So I'll have to figure out what I'm doing then. But we'll see. We'll take one day at a time and figure it out from there. But I think there's going to be a lot of pent-up excitement about the show. It'll be interesting to see how the grading issues play out with regards to if all the millions of cards that needed to be graded get graded or in the market, yada, 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 where the grades are, who's buying what, so on and so forth. So it should be very interesting to see how it plays out there. And how much a actual box of wax packs for 2021 would cost at the show, $200, $300, $400, whatever it may be.
Oh my gosh, horrible.
It was interesting today.
It pains me.
It was interesting today. I was in the local Walmart near where I work, and I actually saw the display setup for Topps and Bowman baseball. Not that there was any cards there, but I actually saw the display piece. So I was going to ask the manager there if I could buy it off of them or if I could have it, but I didn't want to, because I figured I could get mugged in the parking lot. Somebody might see me taking it out and think I might have cards or something. Unopened wax packs, and they tackle me there and, grab them from me or whatever. But
do we have
time to
mention a near record football card sale that happened over the weekend?
Yep. Incredible. Share that real quickly. I was going to mention this too.
I apologize. I know we have a guest coming up, but the 2000 Playoff Contender Championship rookie ticket card, number 144, Tom Brady, sold in Leland's over the weekend. It was a Gem Mint 9, or excuse me, a BGS Gem Mint 9 with a 10 autograph. It was the highest graded, championship ticket one to sell. It sold for the tidy sum of, Bob, you ready? $3,107,372.40. That includes the VIG. $3.1 million for a baseball card that I have a nephew that's younger than that. Or football, excuse me. I'm sorry, I said the B word. So $3.1 million. I have a nephew that's younger than this card. Man.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable indeed. I think that's a great way to say it.
Truly unbelievable.
Who knows, Bob? Our industry, our hobby.
I don't know. Again, I think it's because I'm older now. I would take $3 million if I had that extra money and do something else with it. You know what I mean? Than buying a 21-year-old Tom Brady rookie card. Whatever.
You could buy pretty much every Hall of Fame rookie card in a high grade for that one card.
Right. Unbelievable. Well, our special guest is here, and I'd like to introduce him and get into our next part of our show. Our special guest tonight grew up in Texas. His first season watching football was 1969. He was a Cowboys fan, especially Bob Lilly and Roger Staubach. He's also a Chiefs fan now since his sister moved to Kansas City. As a kid, he drew NFL football player pictures. In his 40s, he started hand-painting NFL logos on football helmets and also made NFL history helmet plaques as well as with pictures and verbiage. In 1991, in Orlando, Florida, he saw his first McFarlane statue and was blown away by the detail. He started painting his own Cowboy and Chiefs McFarlane figures for his personal collection in the 2000s, buying stock figures, converting them to earn some extra money for Christmas. He also listed some of them on eBay. He started making multiplayer dioramas based on memorable plays in NFL history, and these became very popular. He spends every day working up custom designs, and I'd like to welcome tonight Mr. Mike Johnston to our show. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bob and Joe. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being on. And before we get started, I just like you to tell our audience which pieces did you actually do for our super collector in our last issue, John Sanchez, who was a guest on this podcast a few segments ago.
Several of them, mostly the dioramas, the action scenes. I know I've got Bob Lilly tracking down Bart Starr on one. He's got 4 or 5 of them. They got the Doak and the Boys, which is the 4 horsemen sitting on the bench that he requested. I think he told me that was his favorite one that he had. He's got quite the collection. I enjoyed looking for his online thing. Yeah, he's. Unfortunately, I met him later on in the game. He already had most of his collection filled when I started getting heavy into this, but he's a good guy.
Nice.
Okay.
Small world. Kind of funny, isn't it? So, well, thanks for being on, Mike. Appreciate it. These are really fascinating. I really loved the Gridiron Greats, article that came out. The front page of it was awesome. I've always admired people who have this artistic talent, because I do not. I remember as a kid trying to draw the Seahawk logo, the old Seahawk logo on a piece of paper, and sitting there or putting a piece of paper over it and trying to trace over it, and just never came out. So people who can freehand this stuff and it looks awesome, I tip my hat to you. So that being said, I've always wondered, like, the process of how you create them, how you come up with the scenes, how you just the process of how you do it all.
Well, a lot of times I'll base it off of a picture that I find, especially the big plays like the Immaculate Reception, and I've recently did Jack Tatum knocking Sammy White's helmet off in the Super Bowl. I'll try to base it off of a picture, and first I'll find a figure that's close to the pose that I want. And then sometimes I'll replace the arms, the legs, or the heads if necessary. I'll stick small steel rods and glue them to connect the pieces. And a lot of times I'll have to sculpt longer sleeves and pads. And I'll remove the mask and the helmet bumpers if needed. And then it's 2 to 3 coats of color. I use latex color. And I have printed decals made for me that I cut with an X-Acto knife and apply. And then I'll attach the appropriate face mask. Sometimes I have to try and create a face mask, which is kind of tough because they're real small. And a lot of the old cow catcher type full face masks from the 60s, those are pretty tough. Once I'm completed the figure, I'll spray 3 coats of flat poly and and I'll brush 2 coats of gloss poly on the helmets. And then sometimes I need to insert steel pegs in the feet or legs to attach to the field if I'm using a different one. And the base is just a oak board that I'll sand, stain, and varnish. And then on top of that, I'll have if it's AstroTurf, I'll have felt, and if it's grass, I'll make that out of a texture patching plaster material, and I'll mix in sawdust and small fibers from a paintbrush to make it look like grass. And I paint it and apply flat poly on that and attach it to the field and print and laminate nameplates for the base, and then drill holes in the field to attach the pegs from the player's foot or leg. Sometimes the players are attached to each other. I try to make it where there's not a whole lot of pegs showing, so they appear to be off the ground somehow, and you don't really know how.
A lot of what showing? Pegs?
The pegs. Yeah, I want them to look. I don't like those to show up if at all possible, because they don't. Sense, yeah. It makes it more realistic looking.
Yep.
The detail on it is. The detail on them is just incredible. I mean, it's truly amazing to see the the detail on it, and I like you just stepping back in your introduction. You were talking about, and we were conversing via email. You were collecting starting lineups at one time, and then when you saw the McFarlanes, you could see the incredible difference between the two. As far as obviously quality in production and so on and so forth. So
I was amazed.
Yeah, well, go ahead. The McFarlanes were just, again, exciting for anybody looking at them if you were collecting starting lineups. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. It's a big step up.
I mean, again, I remember 1988 when the first starting lineups came out. I bought them. And I bought a few of them, and I distinctly remember actually sadly taking them out of their package because I was more interested in the card than the actual display piece. I thought that the display piece was pretty neat, but it really didn't do anything for me. And then when I saw the actual McFarlane, it was amazing to see. So I do share that point with you that I can see how people couldn't be very, very overwhelmed with the McFarlane and enjoy it much more than other types of statue collectibles that have hit the marketplace over the years. But
the
again,
details just amazing on those.
They are.
I'd like to see how they. I'd like to see a factory see how they actually do those.
Yeah. I can imagine. I can only imagine. So, in looking at that and trying to again going back to your process to create those figures, I'll back up a bit. How did you really get into this area of sports art? Other than what we briefly mentioned in the introduction.
Yeah, I saw the McFarlanes and I really wanted some. At the time, they didn't have a Roger Staubach, and they still don't have a Bob Lilly or Lynn Dawson. And that's kind of what I started with is Cowboys and Chiefs because I'm a big fan of both teams. And after a while, it's like I kind of branched off to other teams and the dioramas and everything. It was just basically because I wanted something that wasn't out there. And it took some of the first ones I did were god awful, but it's like a learning process. It just kept, I'll do this a little different next time, and I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Now, how long does it take to actually finish the final piece? I mean, obviously everything can be different, and depending on what you're actually creating, so on and so forth. So, for instance, give us an estimate, like for just a 1-piece and or like a 4-piece, 5-piece multiplayer scene.
It takes probably, I would guess 5 to 6 hours, depending on the amount of sculpting I need to do to get to the right pose. The plays that are, famous, the big important plays that are famous that I try to replicate take more time because the legs got to be a certain way this way, and the hands have to be a certain way that way, but those take a little bit longer. I try to do common tasks at one time just for efficiency. I'll have 3 or 4 of them going at the same time and do common work, and that helps it along a little bit. But yeah, the dioramas of special plays are pretty time consuming because they've got to look like the play. They can't, just can't have the 2 guys with numbers on them. They've got to look like the actual play. Like one of my favorites is Wyatt Tittle with his helmet off and blood coming down his bald head.
Yeah, on his knees.
Yeah.
That is a classic. Yep.
And
it's got to look right.
Chuck Bednarik knocking Gifford out, and those are the challenging ones, but those are the fun ones.
Yeah, it's like you said, you
see them.
It's got to look. I mean, if people don't even need to see the number, then it's got to look good. It's got to look similar, which is why you said it takes a while. It takes long.
And some of them are challenging too because things happen on different parts of the field, like the Immaculate Reception. You've got Fuqua getting drilled by Tatum, and the ball bouncing back to Franco. And it's kind of hard to split. I kind of split those into 2 bases because they're not. The plays happen. Parts of the play happen so far apart from each other. That can be a challenge sometimes too.
Well, you mentioned earlier, Doak and the boys. I think one of my favorites, that John shared with us was the Don Hudson one. I don't know. I'm a huge fan of Don Hudson. I thought it was really, really well done. I mean, you've got to have some interesting stories about how you pick the scenes that you're gonna work on. How you get started, how you find the pieces you're gonna repurpose into it.
I find most of the stock pieces on eBay. I'll try to find a bulk group of just no names because get them fairly reasonable then. And I just think back to plays that are memorable to me, like the Hail Mary catch from Drew Pearson, and it's just plays that stick out in my mind. That I remember in my mind, and I want to see them in front of me. So and I enjoy doing also the entire groups, like the Steeler linebackers together, and the Cowboys Doomsday Defense linemen, and the Fearsome Foursome. I've done several of those. Those are always kind of neat to look at.
Yeah.
The Four Horsemen was kind of difficult because to sculpt 4 guys sitting on the bench to match the photo was kind of tough because you don't have a whole lot of stock figures out there of guys sitting on the bench, and then the capes that the capes they were wearing was a little outside my wheelhouse too, but I think the capes really helped make it.
It's not as famous of a pose. It's not as famous of a pose either. Like you said, Bernard, and his fist pump after knocking Frank Gifford out, stuff like that. It's just there's certain poses like we were talking about iconic, pictures and stuff like that. And one of the most iconic pictures to me, is Vince Lombardi walking down the tunnel of Lambeau, and just all you see is his silhouette, his hat.
Oh,
that's iconic to me, and immediately recognizable to anybody who's a fan. But you can't do that. There's no way you can't make a piece out of that.
Right. It's like the silhouette of Tom Landry at Texas Stadium. You know, it's like you know who that guy is with his hat.
The fedora. Absolutely.
Yep.
There's some things you can't make into it. Yeah, it's just so, you know, so the Y.A. Tittle one was outstanding. I thought that was just iconic. I mean, like you said, you know, Jim Thorpe.
I was going
to
say the Tittle piece by far and wide, as far as I'm concerned, is probably one of the most recognizable pictures in NFL history. No matter what, you know, age you are, you've seen it at some point. So to actually, you know, create that figure of it, to see the little blood dripping from the head there, I mean, it's just amazing to me. I mean, and again, it's a recognizable figure for football people, and it's so classic, you know. So I think that's the one thing I really liked about John's collection. And again, he gave us the whole tour of what he had. To me, what was the most incredible thing about it was how recognizable everything was, and B, the incredible detail on some of these actual scenes. I mean, it was just incredible to look at. I mean, it was I truly, although I've seen him over the years, I never saw anything at his depth as far as his collection was concerned. So it was truly amazing, to say the least. So I can only imagine what it's like to work with somebody like that, or another collector who was asking you to do this, and this, and just go to work on it. It's amazing to me. It's really amazing.
I had an interesting one. A guy wanted me to do a scene of Bill Parcells on the bench yelling at Phil Simms and Lawrence Taylor trying to separate them. And that one turned out kind of pretty interesting. I found a face of, there's a McFarlane of what's that linebacker for the Ravens?
Ray Lewis.
Ray Lewis, where he's got his helmet off and he's strutting and he looks like he's yelling. I used his head for Bill Parcells and put a phone set around on him, you know, a headpiece set on him. It turned out pretty neat. Looks like he's really, really screaming at Phil, and Phil's just holding his hands up like, what? You know?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar.
In the heat of the moment on the bench, classic scenes, to say the least. Mike, are you working on anything in particular right now?
I've got some in the works. I'm working on the Cowboys Super Bowl VI offensive line of Rayfield Wright, Blaine Knight, Dave Manners, John Island, and Tony Liscio. And I've got a diorama planned on Reggie McKenzie blocking for O.J. Simpson, and another one of Steve Largent blasting Mike Harden after an interception. It's a payback for a hit he got from Harden.
Knocked his teeth out.
That one.
Yep.
And Hollywood Henderson dunking over the goalpost after a kick return. That would be kind of neat. I think I did a Tony Gonzalez dunking on the goalpost one time. That turned out pretty neat.
Describe the Largent and Harden one. That is a classic hit. I mean, because when Harden hit him crossing midfield, he knocked two teeth out. He took Largent out for like the next 4 or 5 games. I mean, it stunned him. It's a bad hit. So I mean, that is, as a Seahawk fan, it is an iconic moment in history. So I mean, I'd love to see a picture of that one too if you got it.
Yeah, I'll send you one when I get her done. It should be cool. I like the violent hits that I did one of Deacon Jones hitting Craig Morton, and his hand is up in his face, and his helmet's starting to come off. And it's like the more violent, the better, because it's a violent game, and that's what first attracted me to football, is just the violence and just everything about it.
Yeah, well, I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to see that Largent one when you get done. But yeah, love it. we've talked about a lot of pieces here. I mean, I've mentioned the Huds and the Tittle, are kind of my favorites. I love the Doak and the Boys, because of how it was in the Gridiron Greats, magazine. I mean, do you have any favorites? I mean, I know sometimes like asking which one's your favorite kid, but yeah, do you have any favorites?
Probably the Ice Bowl sneak, because it's a big one. It's got 22 players and 2 referees and goalpost and an icy field, and it took a lot of study and work to position each player with the right pose. With the Mercine diving over Star, holding his hands up in the air, not to be penalized for pushing Star in the end zone. That's the exact moment that I tried to capture. And you've got all these linemen piled together, trying to sort through all that and figure out who's on top of who and where they are. And it took quite a while. It took several weeks to complete that, but I have not sold that one yet. It's just so much. It was so much work. I could never get what I put into it. But I've got icicles hanging off the goal post, and it was a big challenge, but it's fun to look at.
That's pretty cool. Do you collect football? I mean, we know you make McFarlane's, but I mean, do you collect football cards or items, anything like that?
I did when I was a kid. I was funny talking about the O.J. Simpson card. It reminded me that was my most valuable card, and it was the only one that I had that was folded in half, which is my luck to a T. But I collect football helmets, and a lot of times I'll paint them myself and hang them up. I've got every NFL team hanging up with a half helmet on my wall, and that takes up a lot of room. I could go crazy with it, but I do it a little less now that I'm older and a little more strapped for money. But if I had unlimited sources, I'd be buying stuff every day.
So,
pardon me?
Mostly it's just the McFarlane's that you buy and take care of that take up your collection.
Yes, pretty much. A few bobbleheads here and there, and but yeah, mainly McFarlane's.
Nice. Right on. So we all collect. We're all variations of nerds. So there's no. Yeah.
Well, we
love it.
I think we all enjoy collecting for the simple reason it in one way gives us memories of past times or gives us memories of a favorite game, favorite player, so on and so forth. And some of us also collect to preserve the history of the game for the simple reason, we live in a disposable society where, we're turning away from paper, we're turning away from this. And I just don't think collecting electronically does anything for me. You know what I mean? So I think we all collect for different reasons, but I think we also collect for similar reasons at the same time. You know what I mean? And as I told Joe last show, look at the hobby today. It's kind of amazing. Guys waiting in line at Walmart so they can buy out the stock, only to flip it to another dealer. B, everything is encapsulated, graded, and put away and sold by number type of thing. And it's just a completely different way of collecting than what I'm used to. In McFarlane's and starting lineups and all those pieces, it's pretty unique because you're not going to get a McFarlane graded. That hasn't happened yet. And it's something you could actually look at and enjoy it. It's a display piece. You have it out and you have people look at it, so on and so forth, and it gives you pleasure looking at it, type of thing. I can only imagine John's setup again. John's setup looking at everything. I mean, that's incredible. You know what I mean? It's like a museum you're in. It's amazing.
I enjoy the memories that it generates. Those I almost wish I was older so I could have seen, more football from the 60s with Jimmy Brown and more of Gale Sayers.
Mm-hmm.
And I love watching old NFL films because to me the 60s and 70s were like that's the meat of it for me. I love that era. The teams had the same players year after year normally, and you lived and died with those teams. It was highly personal, for me.
Became a fan of the players, the teams. Yeah, you didn't have to get used to seeing your star quarterback move to a different team midway through, one of the things I love about Steve Largent, his entire career, same place, Seattle.
Right. I can't believe Houston cut him.
So it's so rare today to have a player actually play out his career in one team without, the usual. Look at Brady; he's in Tampa now.
Yeah.
I kind of thought he would have, did his run with New England, but again, today football is a business. I mean, that's it. Players are protecting themselves with their monetary interest more than anything else. So
back in the 60s and 70s, they had to work jobs in the off season just to pay bills. They didn't make any money to speak of.
We also idolize these guys for, it was always better back when. I mean, I'm making air quotes, but I mean, Johnny Unitas, with a Chargers helmet on. I mean, there's Joe Namath with the Rams. There's lots of examples of even our older Hollywood or our older football, idols, having to switch. I mean, Joe Montana. I mean, Bill Walsh was famous for, hey, if you're not performing, you're going out the door. It doesn't matter what your legacy is. It doesn't matter if, you're one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. Joe Montana was traded to Kansas City. Brett, it's interesting. I mean, O.J. Simpson. I don't know. I could keep on going. It's fascinating. About every year or so, we have this thread on VFC about right player, wrong uniform, and it's just funny to see Jerry Rice in a Seahawk uniform, Roger Cray. I don't know. It's always been happening. It seems like it happens more now, though. I guess would be the best way to say it.
Yeah, definitely more now. Free agency changed everything.
It's happening more, and the careers to me are much shorter than they've ever been. A guy's lucky he plays 2 or 3 seasons. That's it. It's simple. I mean, how many guys really last? 8, 9, 10 seasons. It's the minority, not the majority. To say the least. Mike, how would our audience contact you if they want to see and or buy some work or commission you to do some work for them?
A lot of times I'll make a display that I think is cool, and I'll just list it on eBay to see what happens with it. My eBay name is Lily Staubach, which tells you who I ended up rooting for when I was a kid. But it's Lily Staubach, and I've got a Facebook page with pictures called Top Shelf McFarland's, which I just all it is a lot of pictures of ones that I've made. My email address is mjvjjohnston JOHNSTON @att.net. My wife said I probably shouldn't give my phone number, so but yeah, that's how people can reach me.
I'll also offer to our audience, if anybody's interested, they can contact me directly, and I'll direct them to you. And
that'd be great.
You guys can
appreciate that.
And you guys can talk about any commissionings or anything you have in inventory, so on and so forth. Another question I normally conclude our interviews with by our guests is, do you have any advice for a beginning collector, in this case, a beginning collector of statues, McFarland's, for football?
Oh, you mean custom ones or just McFarland's in general?
McFarland's in general, customs in general, you name it. Whatever advice you have.
Oh, just I guess when you're bidding on eBay, wait until the very last moment to bid on it, so you'll have a better chance of getting it. And just, I don't know, just stick with what you love. That's kind of, I love doing this, and it's it really never feels like work. So pick out something that you treasure, that, if anything else, nothing else reminds you of your happy childhood days. That's what I kind of shoot for, is stuff that reminds me of my happier days when I was a kid. When football meant everything.
Yeah, I know that feeling well. That's for sure. Football,
Mike, I'd love. You have our email chain. I'd love to see the large one you're talking about, and if you work on that iconic Jim Thorpe Canton Bulldog pose, I'll send you a picture of it. I'd love to see if you could make one of those too. Those are great.
Sure, that sounds good.
Yeah, and also I'd like to mention, you're the only person I've ever known or spoken to who worked "Get Her Done" into a conversation, and it sounded good. I see it on TV shows, but I lived in Orlando. You mentioned in your bio you lived in Orlando, Florida. I was stationed in the Navy in Orlando for many years, so even being in the South, I've never heard somebody say "Get her done" and meant it. So
I'm surprised I didn't say "pert near" somewhere in there too.
Pert near, yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah.
We heard that one. Yeah.
I think we can tell you're from Texas, so that's good. That's a good thing. So very interesting.
From Texas, and
so Mike,
Texas, living in Kansas City, but still Texan.
Yeah, that's still good. Good Midwestern area. You get that southern influence there too. So that's neat. Well, Mike, thank you for being on the show tonight. And again,
I appreciate it.
Hopefully you'll be hearing from some people for more work, and you'll keep going with your incredible displays that you've made. And again, I think this is one area of the hobby where I think it's overlooked to a certain degree, and at the same time being overlooked, though, collectors should realize what a great addition a figurine, a custom McFarlane would do for their collections. And I do appreciate looking at them and viewing them. And again, you have done and are doing some great work with regards to it. So I highly recommend you for any of our listeners, if they're interested, again, if any custom pieces or anything you have for sale, I think they're great additions to your collection. So, Mike, thanks for being on again. We appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you kindly. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Okay. Mike Johnson, custom McFarlane artist. Incredible work. And again, it lends me to go back to John and his collection. And John has been a subscriber to Gridiron Greats since literally the beginning. And when he contacted me about his collection, I was just blown away. I had no idea he collected them. I had no idea of the depth of his collection, so on and so forth. It was truly amazing to me when I started corresponding with him on it. And then again, he sent out some feelers to some of the artists who created some of the work, Mike being one of them. So I thought it'd be interesting to hear that side of the story in one of our episodes, which we did tonight with regards to how they're created, so on and so forth. I think it's pretty interesting. I mean, again, it's something completely different. We're used to the standard areas of collecting cards, wrappers, display boxes, all the paper items, uniforms, footballs. But you really don't think about the McFarlane pieces, and you don't think about, to a certain degree, the starting lineups. And I hate to say it, I like the cards in the starting lineups better than the starting lineups themselves. You know what I mean? So that's not a good sign for me, because I would break open the package and pull the card out. And it's interesting to note, 1988, the starting lineup card set is very valuable because how many people actually saved the cards, and B, a lot of kids this was marketed for would break open the display package and just play with the figurine. You know what I mean? Whereas McFarlane's to me are much more for a more advanced collector who truly appreciates what they look like and how they would fit into their collection at the same time. Well, we're coming down toward the end of the show. Again, GridironGreatsMagazine.com. If you're not a subscriber to Gridiron Greats Magazine, what are you waiting for? Gridiron Greats Magazine. GridironGreatsMagazine.com. Joe, we're going to go into our
wrap-up. While I was waiting, while I was waiting, I was, I wanted to remind myself of that Mike Harden hit on Steve Largent, that Mike mentioned. And how cool that he picked, a topic like that. I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm usually pretty enthralled during the show, but I just took a brief second to look that up. If you'll indulge me for a moment. The 1988 Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Steve Largent was nearing the end of an obvious Hall of Fame career. I added the obvious part. The man who some regarded as a top 10, even 5 top wide all-time receiver, would retire for the 89 season. But on September 4th, 1988, Largent had more than the wind knocked out of him. Seahawks were taking on the Denver Broncos in their season opener in Denver. Seattle quarterback Dave Craig threw a pass over the middle, Largent's direction. Denver Broncos safety Mike Harden came across and plowed Largent's face with his forearm. The illegal hit knocked Largent unconscious, concussed him, and cracked 2 of his teeth out. Harden was fined $5,000 for the monster hit and was quite frankly an eerie sight. Largent was out for 5 minutes, said Largent's then 10-year-old son, Kyle Largent. 14 weeks later, which would be the season ender, Seahawks and Broncos squared off again. Harden intercepted a pass in the end zone, running the ball out when out of nowhere comes the 5'11" Steve Largent. He not only knocked Harden off his feet, but made him fumble and recovered the fumble. It was the sweetest revenge for Largent and 100% karma knocking Harden on his ass. Largent, who is now 66, said that interception tackle fumble is his favorite moment of his entire Hall of Fame career. Not any of his 100 touchdowns.
Wow.
Largent quoted, the favorite play of my entire career is a tackle, not a catch. That's pretty outstanding. I like it.
Well, I guess catching those passes, they become repetitive. But when you do something completely different on the field, I mean, it's great. I mean, I remember, playing, and to me, one of the greatest feelings was picking up a fumble, no matter where it was or who it was.
Yeah.
And again, you picked up a fumble, man, oh man, you just wanted to hold that ball and run it off the field and take it home once you type of thing. I mean, that's the interesting part about football. Again, the segment that you really don't expect, and you don't think you're going to be part of that play, and you end up being part of it is amazing to me. Truly amazing. So I can see why Largent would say that. That's pretty cool. All right, we're getting into our 2-minute warning and wrap up. Joe, I'm going to hand off to you. What'd you pick up on tonight's show?
Really cool. I loved Mike talking about his process and how his attention to detail, because he's right. You can't just slap a number on the back of a jersey and or on the back of a McFarland and people get it. It's got to be. I mean, we all have these images burned in our minds. I mean, the Y.A. Tittle one kneeling, helmet off, hands on hips, blood coming out of the side. I mean, that is an image that's burned in my mind. Chuck Bednarik, pumping his fist after knocking, basically, him out of commission for a year.
Yep.
And it's just, these are images. I mean, in the Immaculate Reception, that's a tough one to get, but you can get it. It's so these are fascinating. It's just it's pretty interesting. I look forward to asking him if he can do I'd like to see if he can do a Jim Thorpe one, Kent Bulldog style.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be definitely cool. Very interesting. Yeah, I appreciate the work, the amount of effort and time that goes into these pieces, and to me they're truly amazing. I really don't have any artistic ability whatsoever, so I've always been in awe of people who have artistic ability to draw, paint, do these types of statues, so on and so forth. I think they're very cool for any collection. It's amazing, truly amazing, and it's different too, hearing it from the artist's perspective rather than the collector perspective, so that you realize what's actually involved in it and how much work goes into it at the same time. Very interesting.
Yeah.
All right, we're down to a minute. Joe, final thoughts? Anything else?
National, coming up. We're really looking forward to it. It's been a couple years. My son talks about it. I'm really looking forward to hanging out with some football nerds, drinking some pizza or eating some pizza, drinking a beer, just talking hockey. I love it.
And at the same time, I'm going to put you on the spot. Possibly end of October, Chantilly show. You got to get out there. So you could come down to the new compound if it's already up.
Oh.
Check it out, and then we'll go up to Chantilly for the show. All right, we're out of time. Thanks for listening. We're going to be back next week for the middle of the week with another show. Until that time, thanks for listening. Gridiron Greats Magazine.com.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I wanted to thank you for stopping by to listen to another episode here on the Sports History Network. Our podcasters are passionate about uncovering and sharing sports stories from yesteryear. And if you didn't know it already, we have over 30 shows across the network covering all sorts of sports history topics. In fact, here's a glimpse into one of our awesome podcasts here on the network.
Each week, the official Football Learning Academy podcast will take you deep into the history of pro football through interviews with players, coaches, or administrators in the NFL, as well as interviews with Pro Football Hall of Fame selectors, authors, and historians. You'll learn how the game evolved and important moments that shaped the sport into what it is today. And don't miss the Pro Football History Nugget of the Week. Listen to the official Football Learning Academy podcast on the Sports History Network.
How about that? I bet you're super hyped to go listen to that new podcast, right? Well, to learn about this show and all the other podcasts on the network, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Again, that's sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Head over there today to find your next favorite sports history podcast.